People, Deluded, I'm back again. Now, obviously, our season isn't done in the sense of it basically is. We've got no Europa League left. You know, we've concluded our Premier League fixtures. Obviously, we've played 38 times. With that being said, I know we've got the FA Cup final, and with all due respect to the FA Cup, you know, it's a big occasion. I want to win it. There's plenty of reasons to win it. You know, if you don't care about the cup, which is quite disrespectful, you know, we're playing against Chelsea. Chelsea always want to beat Arsenal. Arsenal always want to beat Chelsea. Fans alike, and the players should be. You're at Wembley, you know, you've gone through one stage at Wembley. Why not commit to the other? For both sets of managers, like, you know, Lampard and Arteta, that first sort of trophy, you know, the first monkey off their back sort of thing, you know, I think it's disrespectful to always attribute trophies to success, because typically they go hand in hand, but it's not the only way of describing it. But, you know, Pochettino's a bad boy manager. People talk about trophies. It's one less question mark. Ironically, for both sets of players, managers, sorry, it would then become a case of, oh, they've won FA Cup, but they ain't won this and that. Such is life. Obviously, for Arsenal, you know, Arteta, first trophy. For the likes of Saka, Joe, these sort of young players, you know, you're hoping they can get their first silverware and obviously go on and develop. But the beauty of the Premier League season, in fact, the beauty of the FA Cup, we'll deal with that on Saturday. But the Premier League season, we can look at our season on another day, or for me in another video collectively. But I don't think too much changes for me personally, regardless of if we win the FA Cup. Obviously, it makes it the outlook a bit fonder, but the problems still remain, you know. It is what it is in that regards. And in regards to the league table doesn't lie, you know, we're 8th. Depending on how you look at it, the same situations are there, you know. It's for years, even when Arsenal was getting top 4, you know, our record against the other top 4 and now top 6 rivals was quite atrocious. And I think since Arteta's come in, we've looked a bit better against top teams. You know, again, it's not in the league, but we beat City, we beat Liverpool in the league, of course, where they really had nothing to play for. You know, we've beat Manchester United. We were unlucky against Chelsea, and again, that highlights our game management, but that was one of Arteta's first games. So I've got faith in Arteta being able to pattern that up to a degree, you know, with the aid of obviously transfers. You know, the big games are one thing, but, you know, I don't want to say you can get away with the big games, because every game is important. Every game is a big game, but it's the amount of draws that has killed our team as well, beyond the obvious, you know, game management, dropping points from winning positions, and the rest of it. Because the league table don't lie, people. You look at last season, and my research skills, considering I've held a position as a researcher, is quite poor, but looking at last season, and again, like I said in one previous video, or was it on my podcast, collectively it's been an atrocious season. You know, I think the one bright spots, if I'm looking at this as a neutral, I'm saying the bright teams, you know, Chelsea's a big team. They wouldn't want to be fighting for 4th and stuff, but I think given what people were saying about Lampard and about Chelsea, how they're going to come 10th and come where Arsenal is right now, where we finished, it's been a good year for them. I think Chris Wilder and Sheffield United have performed above expectations. Leicester, you know, they bottled Europe's top competition, considering they were holding on to third place really, and then 4th respectively, and let it go, but they finished 5th. Many people would not have had Leicester to finish in that position. Obviously, you can't exclude Liverpool, you know, in terms of the points. City as well are blowing people out the water. But beyond that, it's been a poor season, you know. 40 points isn't enough to keep you up. You need less than that now. Stayed up with 30 points. You know, look at the points to get into the top 4, really and truly, people. Versus last season, you know, we missed out on by a point. You know, Spurs had 70 odd. So it's been, in terms of points amassed, I think teams have been poor. Maybe a bit of it was COVID. Maybe it's just what destiny has said. I don't know, people. But like I said, last season we finished 5th. We had 21 wins. We had 7 draws. We had 10 defeats. And we were on 70 points. I think we've lost the exact same number of games, people. We've had 10 defeats. The only problem is, you know, we've got less wins, people. We've got 14 wins. We finished 8th place. You know, we've got 14 draws. And again, it comes back to game management. There's been times we've scored, had to come from behind to draw or win. There's been times, you know, we've played well, gone behind, and a point feels like a victory when we should have went and won. We don't need to speak about for another vid, people. I will go in depth on the draws, or go back and look at our draws. But you know, we've dropped stupid points on the road. In particular, you know, our away form and just our draws. You know, we've conceded 40% odd of goals via set pieces, our most ever. There was a time we was looking a bit more solid as such, but clearly there's an issue with that. Obviously, individual errors. You know, not to bash any players, because a lot of players, you know, even the players that we count on, you know, but specifically members of our defence, of course, over the course of a season, they've all messed up. Even Leno, I think Leno's a bad boy keeper. Leno's my number one. But a couple of times, no one can disrespect Leno's thing. Leno has done well for Arsenal this season. But just to highlight the point and the case of us needing to improve our concentration, what was it against Chelsea where he come crashing out his line to collect a cross and it just fell to Jorginho? It's this level of collective focus that needs to improve, and I think Arteta can get us there, but the players want to do it ourselves. They have got to want to do it themselves. Because for me, again, I'll never be in a position to be a Premier League footballer. I'd give. There's not many things I'd give in this world. Everything but the madness and the obvious and so on. So I'd give him and no funny boy things. But I'd do a lot to be a professional footballer just for 30 minutes. Let alone these lot. Some man got 5-year contracts at Arsenal. Some man on 300 bags a week. I can't even dream of that, because I would just love to run around at the Emirates. And I do think they care. If I can show this amount of passion, and I'm not a footballer, imagine people that have actually made it. So I do think they care. But for me, the feeling of regret is a great thing. It can make you drown or it can make you move forward, because the best people in life that are the most successful, people that have pulled themselves from difficult situations or fought back from problems, it's because that first and foremost they've accepted uncomfortable truths. They've forgiven themselves for the past, which these players need to do to move on. They've accepted they can't change it, but they've also accepted there's been some factors they can't control that might have got us to where we're getting. We've had bare things, but at the same time, every individual collectively needs to take responsibility for how they've played a part in this poor season. And if I'm one of these players, the regret is gonna really eat me. Look, if I'm a footballer and I'm watching Match of the Day, I'm seeing Liverpool always partying. I'm seeing all these other teams doing good things. Even teams below us, or teams that don't have the same expectations. And I'd be jealous of it. I'd be jealous of Sheffield United having a collective goal and doing that. I'd be jealous of what I believe Sheffield and Leicester overachieving. If you asked in August, I'd be jealous of Man United and Chelsea and all these players talking about top 4. I'd be jealous, and that I would want to remember this pain, this regret, and that's going to drive me for next season. Because when it gets to them winter months, when the games are coming thick and fast, and you feel like you haven't got effort or you ain't got it in, you remember how it felt to essentially be a failure. With all due respect, we have to call a spade a spade. This season has been a failure. We are a collective group of failures. That's not me trying to insult this team. This is me calling it for what it is. Our target was top 4. Last season, if we look at it as optimistic as possible, when we all know it wasn't, we missed out by a point. We've now missed out by however many points. We've dropped down the league tables and stuff like that. We've had our lowest goal scoring season. We've amassed our lowest points in a while. This is a failure. This is negative parts of history that each and every individual player, and there has been some players of bright spark. I feel sorry for Saka. He's come through in this poor season, but they're all going to have their name etched to the negative history. That would keep me up at night. That would spur me on to want to improve, to cut out these individual errors, to make sure we're getting clean sheets, to make sure we're decreasing the draws. Game management is fundamentally it, and I don't know how we fix it, because we could talk about experienced players who are blue in the face. We've got experienced players with bad habits. We've got young and naive players. So the players are going to really need to assess themselves, really and truly. That this feeling would eat me up personally, people. They've dropped, 21 points from winning positions. Again, game management, psychological. Way before, don't get me wrong, we need better players technically. We need players who can defend. We need better goal scorers collectively. We need more creative players. But football's a mental game. Many a times across the course of the Premier League season, I've seen my team suffer a culture shock, going into games with slight arrogance, in the sense of, I don't know if it's we think we're Arsenal and this team is this team, but every guy's on it in a football match. It doesn't matter who you are, how much ability. Belief is the key thing, and I think we're unable to deal with, especially when you've got the 12th men roaring people on. We've shown that at times we're not getting out of third gear. So the way we're starting games, the way we're ending games, keep up the same habits you started in the first 10. I know it's hard when the lactic acid is building and you're beginning to tire, but get in position quickly. And one thing I'd say, for as much as I think the players have to listen to Arteta and Arteta this and that, I want to see players sort things out, because especially when I'm at the Emirates, I'm looking around, I'm looking at the young players. The young players, they should be looking around at the more experienced players who's standing up to be counted. Collectively, there's not too many. There's nobody, when we're going through adversity, that wants to stand up and be counted. Everybody's passing the buck, playing within themselves, looking at each other to change things, and players have got to want to stand up to be counted. I don't care if you're, with all due respect to Joe, if you're Joe Willock or Aubameyang, everyone should believe they can collectively make a difference when their time comes. Football is very very psychological, people. It's way before you talk about technical abilities. Why do you think you see some players that you say, how does he become a professional footballer? Why? Because he believes in himself. And you've probably seen players with more, you know, with a hell of potential, hell of ability, but they're nowhere to be seen because it's a mental game. You need to be up for it. Even when we make mistakes happen. I don't care about, obviously I care about mistakes. The goal is not to be perfect, it's to minimise what we're bad at, essentially. Yeah, mistakes will happen. A team playing out from the back is going to have mistakes, but how we react, and that's one thing, you know, I'll big up Mustafi for that, because Mustafi he's still making mistakes and he needs to improve that. But what I like is the thinking Arteta's got with someone like him. And I'm not necessarily praising Mustafi or trying to sing his praises. I'm using it as an example, because even when he makes a mistake, there's a different thinking with that man now. You know, he's making a mistake and he's saying, all right, cool, I forgive myself, let me go again. Where previously, you know, you'd see a man make one mistake, then they make 10 and things like that. You know, listen, if it's not Mustafi one week, it's Luiz the other. It's not Luiz, it's Socrates, or it's Holding, or it's our keepers, or it's our fullbacks not tracking runners. Again, everyone makes mistakes. Everybody has probably made a mistake leading to a goal, but it's the level of focus that needs to improve. And Arteta can coach as much as he wants, you know. The mentality is one thing. Do you think Klopp could have done anything with them Liverpool players if he wasn't able to get through to them, which I think Arteta does with these Arsenal players? But crucially, these Liverpool players stood up to be counted, you know, with all due respect. Origi should believe he's the best striker in the world. You know, why else would you come on and bag in a you know, coming from 4-0 down against Barca? Do you get it? Everyone needs to believe. Obviously, we're a long way from these things, but mentally we need to fix up next season, because I do have patience, because logically you can see what it is, but it is what it is, people. You know, we've conceded 15 penalties this season. Some have been unjust with the VAR, but a lot of it has been down to individual mistakes, you know. Luiz had to bring down... and he has to take responsibility, but he had to bring down... Who was it? Can't even remember who he brought down in the last game. Was it... It was Welbeck, yeah, he brought down Welbs. That all come because of a silly pass from Holding. There's been several incidences like that, people, you know. We can talk about cities. There's always... the mistake is one thing, and the man has to hold his hands up, but it's the sequence of play. You know, off the ball, in defensive phases, there's a lot to improve, but to concede 15 penalties is no coincidence, people. That's a number of bad choices. For David Luiz, you know... He's had some decent periods this season, but again, you get what you pay for, with all due respect to David Luiz. And considering Chesney and Koscielny have been at Arsenal way longer than Luiz, he's been here a season, you know, it's concerning. He's given away more penalties. They're the only two players he hasn't done more than. He's got 5. He's probably going to close Chesney's one before he calls it a day at Arsenal. Hopefully it's not on... well, it can't be on Saturday because it's not in the league. But, you know, Chesney's conceded 6. Koscielny, who's here for how many years, conceded 8. For me as well, we know our midfield, you know, I think Xhaka's played complete 180, 360, I'll poor at maths, but complete turnaround, playing well. Ceballos finding form. But with all due respect to them, you know, they're never going to get goals and assists in abundance. Ceballos, I'm more looking at you because that's not really Xhaka. But even Xhaka, I'm not saying man have to get 10 assists. I would love a midfield man who could get 10 goals, 10 assists, or something like Kevin De Bruyne. But I think, you know, maybe there's something we can do with Xhaka because he is decent on the ball. Can he offer a bit more? And I'm talking about all the personnel. Torreira's game isn't that, and he's probably going to get sold. But can he offer more? If in the unlikely event Guendouzi's there, can we get more from our midfield options as well as bringing in other people? Because our option, you know, 22 of our 56 goals we've scored in the league are scored by Aubameyang, and of course he's our top goal scorer. I think Lacazette has 10, you know. Beyond Lacazette, I think Pepe might have 5, 6. You're kind of struggling. There's a man with 1 ear and a 1 ear and a 2 there and a Luiz ear. Do you get it, people? There's not enough goal scorers in between. If it's bringing in another striker, bringing in a goal scoring midfielder, bringing in another wide man, we need to do that, because Aubameyang, he's paid to score goals, but there's too much of a burden on single players. And considering since Aubameyang's got it, we don't really feed him and he don't get the service a top striker should get. Nothing short of a miracle, my man is bagging them goals and shows what he's a quality player. But he can't do it alone, you know. Since I've been alive, people, my 25 years, this season, 56 goals is the lowest return I've seen my Arsenal side win. You know, how we called the Gunners and we're not clapping off nothing, and we're not up there with the top goal scorers in the Prem. We're busting blanks, people. Like, we're not firing nothing. Look at, look at it, the cannon. We're meant to make things happen. We're not making things happen, you know. I do think we need better players, but Apologies, people. The existing Papa John's texting me. These people never leave you alone. He's bullying you. The existing options, people, they can offer us a bit more. Like Pepe can do a bit more, but if you look at it, you know, to a degree, he's been a decent signing. He has been underwhelming, but goals and assists, excluding the two names I said before him, he's there. You know, there's more he can do. There's more several other men can do. You know, Bukayo Saka's just come about and he's up there for assists. So if he weren't here this season, what would it say? And he just got his goal against his first Premier League goal against Wolves the other week. So you get it? None of our, specifically our midfield, I'm really on them next year, because I want to see, alright, cool, if your profiles, you're saying you're a cam, you need to grab man some assists. If you're box to box, I need to be seeing that. Defensive mid, you need to be clearing up, because, you know, we need midfielders with different profiles. But I think, and I don't mind the options we have, but the one consistency, even though they've all got different profiles, is none of them are threats. You know, Joe Willock is box to box and is probably the one that will pour. I think I'd say Sabas because he's technically the better player, but Joe's probably, if you had to bet a tenner on, you know, who's more likely to score, it might be Joe because he gets in those positions, but he is lacking the qualities. He needs to improve his end product, he needs to improve his temperament, he needs to improve his decision making. But he's 20, you know. So we got time for Joe, but at the same time, it's a Mazza, people, you know. 56 goals scored this season. Points tally of 56, forgive me if I'm wrong, you know. In fact, let me check, let me actually, yeah, people. Let me actually check the points thing, because that sounds a bit big. See, I'm even doubting it. We can't have 56 points and scored 56 goals. Let me check that. That must be a catfish from Shakwa, because I got these all from Shakwa. Swakwa, I can't even say the name, but the data analytical people, them. I must, right, it really is 56. You know the ones when you're looking at a number and you're I was believing it, and then I started to look at it while I'm talking to you lot, and I'm like, right, no, it could never be. This shows you the problem, you know. 56 goals, 56 points. We're breaking records. You know, the lowest points tally in terms of scoring, 56 goals since I've been alive, 95, 96 people. You know, it's our worst points tally since probably 94 and 95. So if you're an older fan in the 80s and that, you know, I've always said I happen to be born at the right time, because man size boy in Arsenal, I'm seeing Invincibles and seeing Wenger. Sadly, I saw Wenger in a football sense die by the standards he set, and there was obviously success before Arsenal, but there were some tough times, and you know. So Mazzolini, obviously for Arsenal though, in our last 3 seasons, we've conceded 150 goals. So again, you know, these problems go deeper. You know, Emre failed to change it. Wenger failed to change it. Lombard was here too sexy, failed to change it. Arteta showing some inroads, but you know, over a 38-game period without new players, I do think we'd see a better performance level in how we defend, but ultimately the same culprits will make the same mistakes. He needs better tools. Ironically though, you know, this season, for all the problems, you know, maybe it's because Arteta came in, but we've conceded less goals. You know, 48 was conceded this year versus the 2 previous years, 51 people. So we're doing all right, man. We're doing all right. The lack of creativity is obviously killing us as well, and obviously the lack of goal scorers, people. You look at the creativity in terms of assists. Pepe's got the most, I believe, with 6. Saka's got 5 after coming out of nowhere, more or less being a left back. Lacazette's got 4. Aubameyang, I believe, has got 3. In midfield, you've got 2 for Ozil, and we know Ozil, there's no point discussing my man, with all due respect. Guendouzi's got 1, Joe's got 1, Torreira's got 1, Ceballos has 2, Xhaka has 2. Again, there should be more. I'm not saying like this is mediocre numbers. These are numbers you'd associate with a team that plays long ball football and them thing there. Goal scorers in the team is, again, the burden needs to be shared more evenly. Lacazette, you know, he's got 10 in the league. Aubameyang's got 22. Pepe scored 5. Martinelli's got 3. And Martinelli, on the grand scheme of things, is still a youngster, a bit part player, you know, because he wasn't exactly playing under Arteta. He really had to wait a while to get his chance in the league after cup competitions. You know, it all set off for him after the West Ham game, scoring at Stamford Bridge. But if he was, you know, for me, he's a first team regular. He's elevated himself now. But looking at it as a whole, he's just been an impact player of sorts this year, and it's testament to him, you know, that he's near there, and it shows how poor we are. He's got 3 goals. Eddie, who came back in January, he's got 2 in the league. This is all Premier League people, while Luis has 2. And then there's also a hell of other players that got a 1 here, a 1 there. There's no point me copying and talking to them all talking about all of them with you. You might as well just go on BBC, people. You know, so again, game management has been poor. 40-odd% goals conceded by set pieces. So how we defend it, you know, for me, at one point ties into both of them. The last 25-15 minutes of the games, we're not street smart enough, you know. We're not saying to ourselves, let's set up shop here, let's calm it down sort of thing. And even against Watford, you know, we're 3-0 up and we still look like we could lose that game. Again, it comes down to game management, ultimately clean sheets as well, because you look at the stats for Leno without even Martinez as well probably now, but Leno, because he was for the duration of the league, he's probably up there for shots faced on his goal because of our poor defending. Clean sheets, he's probably nowhere to be seen, and again highlights our issues, people. So we've got a lack of creativity, lack of goal scorers, lack of real, this is all what we've shown over the season, a lack of any real respect for defending, you know, failing to hold out leads. A lot of problems that need to be solved psychologically within the team. There's a lot of things, you know, our away record as well, the amount of draws, if I haven't said it, there's a lack of shot. We're not taking enough shots. It's no coincidence, people. I don't have the stats to hand, but also individual errors to go is a thing. You know, Aubameyang's had 93 shots. You know, he's our top goal scorer, he's a striker, he's going to have shots. Lacazette's got 52, Pepe's had 50, Luiz is actually next best with 23, Torreira's had 21. They're the best out, and he's the best out of our midfielders, sorry. If Luiz is up there for your shots faced, and there's several other midfield men I could name at this club in general, there's issues there, you know, and Torreira hasn't got a goal scoring bone in his body. With all due respect to him, I know he's bagged twice against Liverpool and Spurs. What I mean by that is when you list Torreira's strengths, he's not here for this, you know. He's here to break play down, be combative and things. So it is quite concerning, you know. I don't always feel a midfielder doesn't always have to add goals and assists, because as much as I want goals and assists in our midfield. I want someone who can do that, and I do think players can improve, but I'm not ultimately going to kill players if they don't, because I do think in England we have an issue of really respecting midfielders or seeing what midfielders offer if they're not necessarily doing the Frank Lampard, the Steven Gerrard, or the consistent Paul Scholes mad pass. We're not doing that showman stuff, with all due respect to them three academy players. You know, I do think you look at George, again, I'm not saying these men are the best midfielders or anything, but you look at Xhaka, he's misunderstood. There's question marks to ask of him in general, of course, but just in terms of what he brings to a team, you know, people will not see that. Jorginho has all his critics and has his shortcomings, but he's like Xhaka, he's not going to get goals and assists. He's there to try and, you know, build play and things like that. I feel these sort of midfielders there, I don't think we understand in this country enough what they're on. But back to shots being faced, you know, if you don't shoot, you don't score. And it's concerning. There's a bag of things Arteta has to sort out. The one saving grace, people, is obviously with us finishing 8th and jumping from 10th, we're getting an extra 5 million in the Premier League table. Obviously, there's 30 million on the line in the Europa League on Saturday. So there's a lot of things we need to do if we want to get away with that win, people. But the table doesn't lie, and none of this is really concerning. Is very concerning, and none of it's really encouraging. You know, we've got all the faith in Arteta. And one thing I'd say, you know, you look at the goal, two of the goals we scored against Watford, please go and watch it back. The goals we scored against City, you know, you can see the blueprint. He wants us to be a bit more stable. He wants us to press from the front. He wants us to build from the back and score goals. Go and look at the two against Watford, the build-up, and City, like I said. And I have all the faith in the world, but how much can he do that? How much can he improve this team to the level we need to if we're all not singing from the same hymn sheet, if he's not giving recruitment? Because as much as I praise him, and like I have, people, you know, all the things I've said throughout the course of this, you know, there's only so much improving he can do with our offence, with our attack, without proper additions. And I'm pleading for signings, you know. Obviously, Socrates has said he's not leaving. Mustafi's injured and missing next season, as is Marie. We're quite limited for options either way, and we know they lack quality. So, you know, we need to bring in a centre-half in addition to Saliba. And for me, all my faith for next season goes on if I see another centre-half come into this club, people, and a midfielder. I'm prepared to concede the midfield. The midfield is very important, and, you know, a better midfield would improve our defence, people. But if it came to it, I need to see better defenders, because I feel at worst, you know, our midfield is antagonising. At worst, our defence is terrible, sort of thing. And I can't... I'm finding it very hard to watch the same things going over and over again and sit in the same place and say the same old things, and we'll watch the game again and bring the fancy little tactics board and say the same old things, people. It's getting quite jarring, but the table doesn't lie, and it's a sobering reality. There has been some good moments this season, of course, you know, it means nothing. It's always nice to beat Manchester United, you know, we've taken 4 points off them. We played well at the Bridge and 2-2. I know we lost against Chelsea, but it was a better game against Chelsea at the Emirates than I thought. Obviously, we beat Liverpool this season. There has been some, and we've played half decent against Spurs after losing. I'm not talking about the game at their place. There has been some decent performances, you know. and some okay moments, but generally it's been poor. You know, we started off half decent, we finished okay-ish, but in the middle, what was happening? You know, we've had managers being sacked, we've had loss of form, we've had people feeling sorry for themselves, we've had just about every soap opera. And like I said, it's a sobering reality, because I don't feel every player has been poor. Collectively, we've been poor. It's the collective, you know. Aubameyang's goal scoring means nothing if we're not doing anything as a team. The collective comes first, and I don't think there's a player in that side that can look back and say, within reason, if we're honest, that I've given my all this season, that I couldn't have done any more. Maybe Aubameyang, I don't feel he could have done any more. You know, he's done his job in scoring goals. A couple of others, Saka's been a bright spark. Martinelli's been a bright spark. You know, Xhaka's looked different since Arteta's come in, and there's a couple of others. But generally, you know, this ain't the time to pick up our people. We're a team. We play together. Whether we win, lose or draw, we take responsibility. And ultimately, you know, when these players, it probably hasn't hit them yet because there's no time to reflect. They're focusing on the FA Cup. But when they go off on their week or 2 week break, you know, and anticipate the restart of next season, it's a sobering reality. You know, you need to forgive yourself for this now. It's been and gone. But remember how it felt. And, you know, try and not be in this position again. Will we probably be in this position again? Probably, but that's all I got to say, people, man. I've been here longer than I thought. On that note, it's always a pleasure. But let me get out of here. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Deluded, I'm out.